Let me share something with you. A truly smart woman is not the one who knows everything or the one who always has the sharpest words ready on her tongue. No, a smart woman is the one who can remain calm in the face of what she does not yet know. She doesn't panic when life hands her a question without an answer. She doesn't crumble when uncertainty shows up at her door. Her strength is not in her quick reaction, but in her steady presence. Think about how our world works today. Everything around us seems to reward speed. Fast opinions, instant reactions, quick judgments. But what happens when you slow down instead of rushing in? What happens when instead of being the loudest voice in the room, you choose to be the quietest one? That is where true intelligence lives. A smart woman observes before she decides. She takes a breath before she speaks. She listens, not just to others, but also to herself. And in that pause, she becomes powerful. Because the pause is not weakness, it's wisdom. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a heated conversation, maybe with a partner or a coworker. The words are sharp, emotions are running high. Most people would jump right in, defend themselves, fire back. But the smart woman doesn't get dragged into that storm. She lets the moment pass through her like a wave. She waits, she breathes, and when she does speak, her words carry weight because they come from clarity, not chaos. Isn't it true that the people we respect most in life are rarely the loudest ones? They're the ones who know when to hold their peace, when to choose their words carefully, and when to simply let silence do the talking. That's not passivity, that's mastery. This is what I call self-mastery. It's the foundation of a purposeful life. It's how you protect your energy in a noisy world. It's how you elevate your mindset when everything around you feels like it's pulling you down. And it's how you stay aligned with your purpose when distractions are everywhere. A smart woman doesn't measure her worth by how fast she reacts. She measures it by how deeply she can remain grounded. Her power doesn't come from showing she's always right. Her power comes from knowing she doesn't have to prove it. So let me ask you this. Where in your own life could you choose presence instead of panic? Where could you slow down instead of rushing in? Because every time you do, you're not just making a better decision, you're shaping the kind of person you're becoming. That's the essence of wisdom. It's not about knowing more, it's about being more. Being more still, being more present, being more intentional. And that, my friend, is what makes a woman truly smart.
Let's talk about something that can change not only your relationships, but your peace of mind. The difference between reaction and response. Most of us were never taught this. We grow up thinking that if somebody pushes us, we should push back. If someone raises their voice, we should raise ours. That's a reaction. It's fast, it's automatic. And most of the time, it doesn't come from the present moment. It comes from old wounds. A reaction is your past speaking louder than your present. But a response, that's different. A response is born in the pause. It's that moment where you take a breath, you collect yourself, and you choose your words with intention. It doesn't come from pain, it comes from clarity. Science even backs this up. Neuroscientists tell us that when your amygdala, the emotional alarm system in your brain, gets triggered, it hijacks your thinking. That's why you blurt things out or act in ways you regret. But here's the powerful truth. If you simply breathe deeply for 6 seconds, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reason and long-term thinking, re-engages. Just 6 seconds, That pause literally rewires the moment. Let me give you an example. A woman named Sana once shared her story. She and her partner were in the middle of a disagreement. He said something dismissive, and instantly she felt that old familiar surge in her chest, anger, hurt, the urge to defend herself. In the past, she would have snapped back, but this time was different. She lowered her gaze, placed her hand on her chest, and took a slow breath. Then she said softly, "I hear you, and I need a few minutes before I respond." She walked out of the room, gave herself space, and came back later when her voice was steady. What do you think happened? The conversation didn't explode, it actually deepened. Not because there was no conflict, but because she refused to let the conflict control her. That's the power of a response. Now let me ask you, how many arguments in your own life could have ended differently if you had taken 6 seconds to breathe? How many regrets could have been avoided if you paused before speaking? Reaction is easy, anyone can lash out. But response, that takes strength, it takes wisdom. It's not about being passive, it's about being intentional. It's choosing connection over chaos, clarity over confusion. So the next time you feel triggered, when your blood starts to boil, when your jaw tightens, when the urge to lash out feels overwhelming, remember this: 6 seconds. 6 seconds can save your peace. 6 seconds can protect your relationship. 6 seconds can turn a fight into a moment of growth. That's self-mastery, not letting the world dictate your behavior, but choosing who you want to be in every moment. And that choice, my friend, is where true freedom begins.
Have you ever noticed how drained you feel after spending time in the wrong environment? It's almost like your body is telling you, something here is stealing my energy. And the truth is, it probably is. We live in a world that is louder and busier than ever before. News headlines screaming at us, social media feeds full of drama and comparison, phones buzzing with notifications every 5 minutes. Most of us don't even realize how much energy we leak every single day, not because of what we do, but because of what we allow into our space. That's why a smart woman learns the art of energy hygiene. Just like you wash your hands to stay clean, you also need to detox your emotional space. That means stepping away from constant drama, limiting digital overload, and refusing to feed your mind with a steady diet of negativity. Because whatever you consume, whether it's food, news, or conversations, eventually becomes part of your inner world. Now here's the beautiful part. Restoring your energy doesn't always require something complicated. Sometimes it's as simple as stepping outside and letting the sun hit your face, taking a walk in nature, moving your body gently, or finally giving yourself the gift of a full night's sleep. These aren't luxuries, they're fuel. They're how you refill your emotional tank so you can actually show up fully for yourself and for the people you love. I often tell people to think about the 3 circles of energy. The first circle is your space, the room you live in, the desk you work at, the atmosphere you wake up to. Does it give you peace, or does it weigh you down? The second circle is your people, the friends, the coworkers, the voices you allow close to your heart. Do they inspire you, or do they drain you? And the third circle is your content, the information, media, and conversations you consume daily. Do they nourish your spirit or poison your perspective? Take a moment and ask yourself, which of my circles needs cleaning?
Which circle needs a boundary, a reset, maybe even a goodbye? I remember talking to a woman who realized she was starting every morning with the news. Within 10 minutes, she felt anxious and hopeless. She made one small change. She replaced that habit with quiet music and a short walk outside. And within a month, she said, "I feel like I got my life back." That's the power of choosing your environment with intention. Here's the truth. Your energy is your currency. You can't spend it everywhere and expect to feel rich inside. You have to protect it, invest it wisely, and refuse to waste it on things that don't serve your growth. So, if you want to feel stronger, calmer, more alive, start with energy hygiene. Detox the drama. Choose your environment. Protect your 3 circles. Because when your energy is clear, your mind is sharper, your spirit is lighter, and your life flows with far more peace.
Let me share a secret most people overlook. Silence can be one of the most powerful tools you'll ever carry. But I'm not talking about the silence of punishment or cold distance. I'm talking about silence that comes from strength. You see, we live in a culture that tells us to defend ourselves at all costs, to clap back, to have the last word. But sometimes the smartest thing you can do is exactly the opposite. To refuse to let your energy be dragged into a battle that doesn't deserve you. I'll give you an example. Zora was in a relationship where arguments often spiraled into a dangerous collision. Her partner had a habit of raising his voice, pushing harder, trying to bait her into matching his intensity. In the past, she would have gone right along with it, shouting back, defending every point, only to walk away feeling exhausted and unseen. But one evening, she made a different choice. She looked him in the eye and calmly said, "I will not argue in this energy." Then she left the room. Now here's the important part. She didn't walk away to run from the issue. She walked away to protect her peace. And that silence completely changed the atmosphere. Without fuel, the fire burned out. Later, when emotions cooled, they were able to talk without tearing each other down. That's the power of silence. It diffuses what words would only inflame. It protects you from being dragged into chaos. It reminds the other person, and more importantly yourself, that your peace is not up for negotiation. Think about it. How many times have you regretted something you said in anger? How many nights have you replayed an argument wishing you had just stayed quiet? Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the discipline of knowing that not every battle is worth fighting, not every comment is worth answering, not every provocation is worth your breath. And here's what's beautiful. When your silence comes from strength, people can feel it. It doesn't feel like withdrawal. It feels like presence. It says, "I see you, I hear you, but I will not lose myself trying to prove a point." Now, I want to ask you, what would shift in your life if you learned to use silence this way? What relationships would feel lighter? What conflicts would dissolve before they even began? Remember this. The loudest voice in the room is not always the strongest one. True strength is often quiet. It's the calm that doesn't need to shout, the presence that doesn't need to perform. And when you practice this kind of silence, you don't just protect your peace, you elevate it. So the next time someone tries to pull you into an argument, pause, breathe, and if you must, let silence be your answer. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Let's be honest, feelings can be overwhelming. Anger, disappointment, jealousy, even love that can sweep us up and carry us places we never intended to go. But here's the truth. Emotions are not the enemy. The real danger comes when we let them drive the car. That's why emotional discipline is so powerful. And no, discipline doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean you pretend you're fine when you're not. It means you allow yourself to feel fully, but you don't let those feelings make your decisions for you. Think of it this way. Emotions are like weather. They roll in, they roll out, but you don't build your house on a storm. You wait, you observe, you choose your actions based on what will last, not what is passing. Let me tell you a story. Neha was a woman who struggled with this for years. She was loving, generous, full of passion, but also unpredictable. If her partner forgot to call, she'd spiral into silence or lash out. If he didn't react the way she hoped, she'd explode with frustration. Every relationship felt like an emotional roller coaster. Deep down, she wanted closeness, but her reactions only pushed people away. One day, after yet another painful breakup, she realized something had to change. Not them, her. So she began small, a 5-minute meditation each morning, a simple journal where she didn't just vent, but observed. What exactly am I feeling right now? And when conflict arose, she practiced a simple tool, naming the emotion out loud to herself. I feel angry. I feel unseen. I feel scared. Neuroscientists call this labeling, and studies show it reduces the intensity of the feeling almost immediately. Over time, Neha transformed. She didn't stop feeling deeply, she actually felt more, but she stopped letting those feelings control her actions. Instead of snapping back, she paused. Instead of punishing with silence, she chose to communicate. And when she stood in front of her partner, she stopped choosing to win arguments and started choosing intimacy. That's what emotional discipline gives you, the power to stay steady in the middle of your storm, to hold space for your feelings without letting them destroy what matters most. Now let me ask you, how often have your impulses cost you peace? How many times have you said or done something in the heat of the moment that you later regretted? And how different might your life feel if you could build the habit of pausing, of breathing, of choosing? Here's the good news. Discipline is like a muscle. Every time you practice it, you get stronger. Whether it's through meditation, journaling, or simply pausing to name your feelings, you are training yourself to respond with wisdom instead of reaction. Emotional discipline is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming consistent, reliable, a safe place for yourself and for others. And in a world full of people controlled by impulse, that steadiness makes you rare and unforgettable.
One of the most loving things you can ever do for yourself and for the people in your life is to set boundaries. But let's be real. Boundaries often get misunderstood. Some people hear the word and think it means shutting others out, building walls, or being selfish. But true boundaries are not walls, they're bridges. They make love clearer, safer, and stronger. The question is, how do you communicate them without sounding harsh, defensive, or cold? This is where something called nonviolent communication, or NVC, comes in. It's a simple 4-step framework that can completely change the way you express your needs. It goes like this: observation, feeling, need, request. Let me break that down. First, you share an observation, what you see, without judgment. Then you share your feeling, how it affects you emotionally. Next, you name the need, the deeper value or desire underneath the feeling. And finally, you make a clear request, something the other person can actually do. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," you might say, "When I shared my thoughts earlier and you looked at your phone," observation, "I felt dismissed," feeling. "I really need to feel heard in our conversations," need. "Would you be willing to put your phone down while we talk?" request. Do you feel the difference? One version attacks, the other invites. One creates defensiveness, the other opens the door to connection. A powerful tool within this is using I statements. They shift the focus from blame to ownership. I feel because I need. Would you be willing? This isn't manipulation. It's clarity. It's saying, this is where I stand. This is what matters to me. And here's how we can move forward together. And here's another key. Boundaries work best when they're specific. Vague boundaries create confusion. Clear ones create safety. For example, instead of "I need more space," you might say, "I need 30 minutes of quiet after work before we dive into conversation." Or instead of "I wish we talked more," you could say, "Can we set aside 20 minutes after dinner 3 nights a week just to catch up?" When you turn boundaries into agreements, clear, practical, and mutual, you remove the guesswork. And relationships thrive on clarity. So ask yourself, where in your life do you need to set an agreement instead of silently carrying resentment? Which conversations would feel lighter if you spoke your truth with compassion and specificity? Remember, boundaries are not about controlling others, they're about honoring yourself and giving others the chance to meet you there. They are not a rejection of love, they are the very structure that makes love sustainable. The smart woman knows clarity is kindness. And when you set boundaries with honesty and heart, you don't push people away, you invite the right ones closer.
Have you ever walked into a room and felt the atmosphere shift before a single word was spoken? Maybe someone walked in and suddenly everyone felt calmer. Or maybe the opposite. Suddenly the air felt heavy, tense, uncomfortable. That's not magic. That's energy. Science actually tells us something fascinating here. The electromagnetic field of the human heart is stronger than that of the brain. It radiates outward, influencing the emotional climate around us. Which means this: before you even open your mouth, people can feel you. Your energy introduces you before you do. Take Elsie, for example. She was a nurse in a busy trauma unit where chaos and panic were the norm. Yet whenever she entered a room, something changed. Patients calmed down. Coworkers felt steadier. People would say, "I don't know what it is about her, but I feel safe when she's here." When asked her secret, Elsie said simply, "I prepare my energy before I walk in. I breathe. I remind myself I'm not here to react. I'm here to serve." That's the difference. She wasn't just showing up physically, she was showing up energetically. And here's where the wisdom lies. Most people live like thermometers. They reflect whatever environment they're in. If the room is tense, they get tense. If the conversation is heated, they heat up. But the smart woman learns to be a thermostat. She doesn't just measure the temperature, she sets it. She decides, I will bring calm. I will bring steadiness. I will bring light. Think about your own life, in your home, in your workplace, with your family. Are you a thermometer, reacting to everything around you? Or are you a thermostat, choosing the energy you bring. Now, let's be clear. Being intentional with your energy doesn't mean you have to be cheerful all the time. It's not about faking positivity. It's about alignment. It's about knowing who you are, preparing your heart before you enter a space, and refusing to let other people's chaos steal your peace. I've seen people transform their relationships just by shifting their energy first. A woman once told me that when she stopped bringing her frustration from work into her home, her family dynamics completely changed. Same people, same circumstances, but her energy was different, and that difference spread like wildfire. So I'll ask you, what kind of energy do you carry into the rooms of your life? Do people feel lighter around you or more burdened? Do they leave your presence feeling safe or drained? Remember this, your energy is contagious, and the most attractive, magnetic trait you can cultivate is not in your looks or even your words. It's in your presence. Be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Set the tone. Prepare your energy before you step into the room, because when you do, you don't just change the space, you change lives.
There's a quiet strength that often goes unnoticed in our noisy world, the strength of emotional stillness. Now, don't confuse stillness with suppression. Suppression means you bury your feelings and pretend they're not there. Stillness is something entirely different. Stillness means you feel fully, but you regulate wisely. You keep your power to choose instead of handing it over to impulse. Think about it. Most conflicts spin out of control not because of what was said, but because of how quickly we reacted. Stillness creates a gap, a sacred pause where you get to decide, do I want to react or do I want to respond? That gap is where freedom lives. There are simple tools that help you access this state. One of my favorites is what's called box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold again for 4. Just 1 or 2 cycles of this can slow your heart rate and bring your mind back online. Another tool I like is the pause, breathe, name, choose method. You pause before you act. Breathe to calm your nervous system, name the emotion you're feeling, and then choose the response that aligns with who you want to be. Let me give you a real story. Alina was a school counselor who often found herself in emotionally charged situations. One day, a frustrated parent stormed into her office, accusing her of not doing enough for their child. In the past, Alina would have cut them off, defended herself, maybe even broken down afterward. But this time, she remembered her practice. She sat still. She let the parent speak. She breathed. She listened all the way through. And when it was finally her turn, she spoke with calm. I can feel how much you care about your child. Let's work together to help them. Tell me more about what you've noticed. The energy in the room shifted instantly. The parent softened. The defensiveness dissolved. And what could have been a battle turned into a collaboration. That's what stillness does. It changes the atmosphere. It turns tension into trust. And it gives you the dignity of knowing you don't have to be pulled into every storm around you. Ask yourself, how many arguments in your own life could have gone differently if you had given yourself even 10 seconds of stillness? How many regrets could you have avoided if you had paused to breathe before speaking? Emotional stillness doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop letting feelings run your life. It's not weakness, it's mastery. Because when you're still inside, you're free to choose. And choice, my friend, is the highest form of strength. So the next time chaos knocks on your door, remember this. Pause,
breathe, name, choose. That's how you protect your peace. That's how you shift the moment. That's how you live in mastery, not reaction.
Let's talk about something that many people, especially women, have struggled with their whole lives: boundaries. Too often, boundaries get a bad reputation. We're told they make us difficult, selfish, even unloving. But here's the truth. Boundaries are not walls. They are not coldness. Boundaries are clarity, and clarity is kindness. Think about what life feels like without boundaries. You say yes when your whole body is screaming no. You stay too long in conversations that drain you. You give and give until your spirit feels empty. What happens then? Anxiety rises, resentment builds, exhaustion takes over, and you begin to lose yourself. But when you draw healthy boundaries, something shifts. You feel safe, you feel respected, you feel like your time, your energy, and your love are finally being valued. Boundaries don't push love away, they protect it. They make real connection possible. Let me share a story. Miriam was a woman who stayed in a relationship far too long with someone who never truly saw her. He loved her when it was convenient, praised her when she was useful, and dismissed her when she expressed her needs. She thought, if I just give more, maybe he'll change. So she gave her time, her silence, her energy, even her self-worth. One day, sitting in a quiet room, she had a painful realization. I have trained him to disrespect me. It wasn't that she was weak. It was that she had never drawn a line. In trying to keep the relationship alive, she had abandoned herself. But then, Miriam chose differently. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply said, "This version of me no longer exists." And she walked away, not out of hatred, but out of self-respect. That was the day she reclaimed her dignity. This is the quiet power of boundaries. They don't always need to be loud. Sometimes they are as simple as the word no. And no is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain, justify, or apologize for honoring your own soul. So let me ask you, where in your life are you giving too much of yourself away? Where are you saying yes out of fear instead of no out of love for yourself? Boundaries are not a punishment. They're a declaration. This is where I end, and you begin. And when you live with that clarity, you filter out those who only valued your availability, and you make room for the ones who value your worth. Remember this. You are not cold for setting boundaries. You are clear. You are not heartless. You are healed. And when you choose to honor yourself, you give others permission to honor you too.
So what does it really mean to be a smart woman? Not the kind of smart that's measured by how many books you've read or how quick you are with words. No, the deepest form of intelligence is self-mastery. It's the art of governing yourself when life pulls at you from every direction. There are 3 pillars that hold up this kind of wisdom. The first is emotional stillness, the ability to pause, to breathe, to remain steady even when storms are swirling around you. The second is intentional energy, knowing that your presence, your frequency, your very heartbeat influences the room before you even speak. And the third is discipline with boundaries, choosing when to say yes, when to say no, and never betraying yourself just to make someone else comfortable.
A woman who embodies these pillars doesn't need to be loud to be heard. Her presence does the speaking for her. She doesn't chase affection just to feel worthy because she already knows her value. She doesn't mirror the chaos of the world. She moves with clarity, with calm, with truth. And something extraordinary happens when she lives this way. Her very presence shifts the environment. In her home, she becomes the anchor. In her relationships, she becomes the mirror of wisdom. In her community, she becomes the quiet force of peace that others can lean on. She doesn't have to demand respect. People give it to her naturally because she radiates it from within. This is the essence of self-mastery. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about choosing moment by moment to honor your soul rather than your fears. To let silence speak when noise would only make things worse. To let discipline guide you when impulse wants to take the wheel. To let your energy reflect who you are at your core, not what the world is trying to make you. So if you take nothing else away from this message, remember this. Silence is not weakness, it's power. Discipline is not punishment, it's love directed inward. And presence is not passive, it is wisdom in motion. The smart woman walks through life anchored in these truths. She doesn't just enter a room, she transforms it. She doesn't just survive relationships, she elevates them. She doesn't just live, she awakens. And maybe, just maybe, that's the invitation for all of us. To stop chasing validation, to stop drowning in noise, and to start mastering the one thing we can control, ourselves. Because when you master yourself, you don't just change your own life, you change the lives of everyone you touch. And that, my friend, is the quiet, unshakable power of a truly smart woman.